Hey guys, and welcome back. My name is Jessica Leichtweisz. I'm the CEO of Hope Education Services. You may notice a different background today. I'm traveling, but wherever I go, I want you to know I'm thinking about your family and I don't stop making content for you. Autism doesn't stop for your family, so I don't stop thinking about and just working for you everywhere I go. Tonight, we're going to have another episode of Ask an Autistic. If you've joined before, you know I've been working with kids for 12 years. What I think that makes me a really, really big expert in is behavior and communication and teaching and strategies. But no matter how hard I try, I can't fully understand what autism feels like and what it's like to be autistic because I just don't identify as autistic. So I have a panel of autistic adults today. There's 6 of us here today, and they've come and assembled to answer your questions as parents. If you're lucky enough to be here live, you can ask your questions live. If you're watching this recording and you want to ask your questions live, we do this every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Head over to my website, hopeeducationservices.com, under events, sign up, and you can be here live to answer your questions. So we have a parent on tonight, Lisa. She's one of our favorites. She comes every week. We have her on tonight. She's asked me if she can ask a question in advance. I told her, awesome, I love it. Whatever she asks, our panelists will answer. So welcome, Lisa. Thank you for being on and answering our question, or asking the first question. And our panelists will be happy to answer it today.
Thanks so much. Okay, so my question is about autism organizations. So I know there's a big divide in the autistic community about what organizations you may or may not support. And my question as a parent is, what organizations, autism organizations, do you support and why? And then what organizations do you recommend for parents as a safe place to get reliable information to help our children? And then are there any that you just like recommend that, you know, we might stay away from or be more careful in getting information from?
That is a really good question, and it is one that does divide the autism community. So I just want to put as a disclaimer, and we will talk about this question, and I want everyone to answer it honestly and give their personal opinion. So my disclaimer is that me, Jessica Leichtweisz, CEO of Hope Education Services, does not necessarily endorse any answers that follow this question. And I truly do believe that all autism organizations are doing the best they can, the best way they know how, but some people are doing a better job than others. So whatever answers that the panelists give, I'm asking them to speak from their heart, to speak the truth, but please know that may not represent my personal opinion. So Jessie, I'm gonna have you go first tonight. Thanks for being on here, Jessie. What organizations do you like? Are there any you don't like? Where do you recommend parents get information and why?
Honestly, there's none I despise. I'm trying not to jump on the bandwagon and vilify Autism Speaks. That receives a ton of flack in the autism community, mainly I think because they receive a lot of money and they're all about finding a cure, supposedly. But quite frankly, I believe that people are entitled to want to get a cure or at least prevent it, because there are people like me who can say autism is a gift. It's helping with writing books and living a life of purpose, and other people, they feel that autism is a tool of the devil. It's ruined their life or their children's lives, and they would sell their soul to the devil himself just to get a cure. They have the right to feel that way, but quite frankly, Autism Speaks has been good to me. It gave the opportunity to speak at the United Nations back in 2014, and that was one of the most awesome experiences of my life. I remember when the founders, Bob and Suzanne Wright, beamed down on me with grandmotherly and grandfatherly pride, because I'm kind of what they wish for their grandchild when he grows up. So I've had good experiences with Autism Speaks. The short answer to my long-winded answer is that I do not have anything personal against any autism organizations. But an organization I definitely like is GRASP. It stands for Global and Regional Asperger Syndrome Partnership. It's a series of support groups that meet as far away as New York City. There's a chapter in Kingston, New York, and the executive director is Kate Palmer. I've been fond of this because it allowed for the understanding of my condition and interacting with other adults as well. And they're a group of amazing people. But there is some controversy with that organization. Supposedly they have a lot against men, and there's been a decent number of men who have been banned from the group in accordance to what I've heard. And I don't know the ladies' side of the story, but I do believe that there has to be some room for error or redemption, because it's not going to be perfect, especially when you have men who have social difficulties. And I think that it should be a safe space, and I do feel for the men who are not welcome in the group, and hopefully that'll change in the future.
Yeah, well, that's a great I mean, I've never heard of that organization, so thank you for bringing that to light. I really appreciate that. And I've said before that, you know, I'm a big believer that when someone gets into the field of working with kids with autism or adults with autism, they're generally good people, and they're doing their best to do good things, and no one's perfect. You know, when you talk about Autism Speaks and there being flack against it, I think when you put yourself out there on a big political scale and you're doing a lot, you're gonna naturally make some mistakes. And so any organization can, and any organization will. I've personally made mistakes, right? I'm very transparent about the fact that some of the things I did when I started working with kids with autism are not the things I would do now. And with experience comes understanding, and with experience comes education. And it's important as a group and as a society. That's what it's all about, is working together for the good of the community. So I really do believe that. So thank you so much for sharing that opinion. And for pointing out that organization. I hadn't heard of it, but I will look it up, especially since New York City is pretty local to where I am. So Michele, I would love to hear your take on this, and I'm excited. Maybe I'll learn about even more organizations.
Thanks, Jessica. So actually a little bit of a fun fact is that, like, I've been fortunate. I've gotten to perform keynote speeches for like a couple of like special education organizations in my state, in New Jersey. So like I've done for like, and this is my advice for you, Lisa, is that to reach out, like even in your school district, like for your child, if they have any special education organizations that they're connected with, because I know it depends on the school districts that they work with, to find out like who they're connected, so you get more resources and information and stuff. So I would definitely do that. And like what Jesse was saying about with Autism Speaks, like I actually have a personal connection, because when I was 16 years old, I wrote my very first blog story about living with autism. That was when I actually like shared about myself online. And half a year later, I got reached out by, and this was when I was 16. So half a year later, I got reached out by an employee from Autism Speaks, because they really were touched by my story and everything. And at that time, they were actually creating a campaign commercial for about with continuing like research about with ways to improve like with strategies about with autism. So I got chosen to be in their campaign commercial at that time, and I was only 16. So it's, you know, it's about paying attention to like what the organizations are doing. Yes, there's pros and cons to it, just like Jessica was saying, like everyone's made like mistakes and stuff too, but it's just like about with paying attention to like what they provide for you and everything. And yeah, that's a little fun fact about with how Autism Speaks like has impact with me and stuff, and like how they do contribute like to individuals living with autism, like working together and stuff. So I think that's important to find out as well. That would be my answer to that.
Awesome. Well, you know, it's funny because like I think it's like this false belief that most autistic adults are against Autism Speaks. And I don't think that's actually true. And as our panel, like now it's only 2 out of 2, but 2 out of 2 people say like, no, they had a personal connection in a good way with Autism Speaks. I also have a personal connection to Autism Speaks. I happen to know personally the people who found it, and I know that they're really good people. Obviously now it's a really big organization, and it's gone beyond just themselves, but they started Autism Speaks for their son, who is pretty severely on the autism spectrum. And I think that part of what Autism Speaks does is probably their view of how autism affected their son's life. And it's very hard, as you point out, Michele, and Jesse pointed out the same thing. It's very hard to discredit a parent who feels like autism destroyed their family's life or their child's life, because that is the reality for some families. It's not the reality for all families, but it's absolutely the reality for some families. And whether or not you believe autism is a gift, and I believe in autism acceptance, and I do believe that for many people it can be a gift, but that doesn't discredit an experience another human has. And I think that everyone's view of it is correct, and everyone's view is correct for them. If you believe autism is a gift, you're right. If you believe it's, as Jesse said, the devil, you're right. However your experience of it is valid and correct for you and for your family. And you have a right to experience it however you do. And you have a right to personalize it however you do. So thank you, Michele.
Thank you.
Aidan, you're up next on my list tonight. And Aidan, I just want to point out, Aidan has an autism organization that he personally owns and runs, and I think that's a very valuable source of information.
Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And let me just first start off by saying that I think that the big, thing on everybody's mind is really Autism Speaks. And I guess I'll give my opinion on that. So I think that that organization has a noble purpose. I think that the right thing is, I think ideally what it really means is it's really trying to invest in the humanity and kind of the overall emphasis on autism awareness, autism acceptance. I think that's a good way to look at it. However, I understand that, part of having autism, and for me, and also just somebody kind of knowing what autism is a little bit, it's really a puzzle and it's a journey. And there are twists and turns and things that you may not know, and I won't know until I'm much older. And every day that goes by or that elapses, I learn more information about what autism is. And I'm always interested in hearing people's experiences and perspectives, really kind of what their takes are on certain issues, because that kind of opens the door to what autism is. It's not just this narrow field. And unfortunately, I think that's what Autism Speaks has failed to do. I think that it's become very narrow. I think it's become way too corporate entity based and way too, as soon as, of course, when you're running a business or whatever like that, money and financial operations are important. But when it feels, especially for the type of field of autism, especially, I think that it's definitely, it's way too much emphasis on the corporate structure and the finance and everything like that. And I think that there needs to be more of that humanity and more emphasis on not just this narrow view of, because the people that really are part of Autism Speaks, it's really, if you look at the executive board, they have very similar experiences. Now their children might not have similar experiences, but they all come from the same level playing field where they were either professionals or they might have been very wealthy. There might have been this overall similarity. And what Autism Speaks to kind of talk more about is autism in inner cities, and how that, I want, instead of just having this, I think it's become very narrow is what I will say. But I don't want to completely criticize Autism Speaks, because I think it's done a really amazing job over the years in addressing several issues within the autistic community. And I think that with some improvements, and I think that, with some collaboration, I think it can go back to that place. But I will say that I don't like how it's become very corporate entity wise. But with other organizations, so for me, what it is that I run an advocacy business, and I don't really necessarily have I really wish, honestly, that I had a support group to help me with, coping with, the certain ramifications of having autism and everything. I wish that I had an organization or a group to kind of go to, but I never really did. So really what it is that what I can say for you, Lisa, is that some really great organizations that have a lot of great information are like very like government oriented. So for example, there's COPA, Council of Parents, Attorneys, and there's CPAG. Joining your local CPAG is another great way, because a lot of the issues that they talk about are autistic related, but they also branch off on other issues. I'm not really entirely familiar with organizations that are devoted to just autism. I mean, besides Autism Speaks, and now the organization that Jesse just mentioned, those are really the only I could think of. But I can think of broad organizations like CPAG, COPA, WEF, HE, like it's like Hero something. I can think of those types of organizations that I definitely feel that there's an emphasis on autism because it's become prevalent, but they talk about other issues. So if you want to get like information that can help in your situation, there's actually hotlines that you can call at specific periods of times, and you can kind of describe your situation, describe, certain things. So there are a lot of resources out there. So that would kind of be my 2 cents to it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Aidan. And Lisa, just an organization that I'm thinking about while Aidan's talking about that I really like is the Autism Research Institute. Now, they are very much based on determining the biological causes of autism, and they do a lot with biomedical interventions, which I know can be controversial. My personal take on that is if anybody is not feeling well, they will not be they will not be able to live as effectively. They won't be able to learn as effectively and function at the best version of themselves. I today went for a IV treatment. That's a regular part of my lifestyle because I believe in holistic and biomedical approaches for everybody, not just for kids with autism, but children with autism tend to be more prone to genetic differences that can often affect them in a negative way. And so that's something to think about and something to look into. They do a tremendous amount of research. They also offer a lot of grants to people that want to do research. They're a really great organization. And especially, even if a professional is watching this, they're a great organization to look at. They're trying to figure out things like, for example, changing autism screening tools to pick up autism in girls. Because right now, the autism screening tools tend to pick up autism in boys more often than it does autism in girls. So they're working in that area. They're working to find specific genetic mutations that might link autism to certain genetic traits. So that's a really great organization as well, if you're looking for more scientific information. So thank you so much, Aidan. I appreciate your opinion. Kevin, you are next on our list.
All right, so, well, I will also say, like, I don't think there's no organization out there that I think is a bad one. I haven't, but a lot of them are like, there are ones that I might not know a lot about. Like haven't really been much involved with Autism Speaks to really be able to give my personal opinion on it. So I haven't had any experiences with bad organizations. I will say now I'll talk about one organization I am a member of, is called ASPEN, which stands for Asperger's Education Network. They're an organization that kind of seeks to educate, professionals and parents on Asperger's and autism. And I've gone to a lot of their conferences. They do biannual conferences in the spring and fall in Iceland, New Jersey. And it's been actually a couple of years now since I last went to one, but there was a while where I was going almost every year to each conference. And they have a lot of good at these conferences. They have a lot of good presenters. They have some people on the spectrum who get up and share their story and experiences with autism, as well as professionals and researchers who are kind of sharing the latest research on the field of autism. So that's one organization I've been a member of that I have had good experiences with. And And yeah, that's the organization I've been most involved with. And I feel like, well, as I'm talking, I also feel like while I haven't really, besides being on your show, Bridge the Gap, Jessica, I haven't really been as much involved with your Hope Education, but I think what you do seems like it's all really good, reaching out to, really in that, trying to, bridge that gap and help, there be better understanding among neurotypicals of what it's like to have autism. So I think, you're an organization, Hope Education, I definitely would recommend to parents.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I received that. And that means a lot to me. And actually, part of the reason why I started moving in the direction of welcoming autistic adults and sharing input is because the fact that the opposite happened. There were autistic adults who were criticizing what I was doing, and I wanted to learn from it. I wanted to change. I wanted to be a pioneer in the field. So it means more to me than you know that a year later from that, there are people who are recommending my organization that does autism. To me, that means that I'm doing the right thing. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, because I think I like how I don't think anyone really can fully understand what it's like to have autism without hearing from the autism community themselves. So I think it's great that you're doing a really great thing there by trying to get the autism community to speak.
Awesome. Yes. So we should start our own organization, the Autistic Community Speaks.
Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, because it almost feels like your organization should be.
Yeah, I agree too.
Our organization should really be called Autism Speaks. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That means so much to me. It really does. Like, it really just makes my heart happy, because I wake up the first thing I wake up every morning and think about is like, how am I going to serve people today? And I love what I do. And I just know it's my life's purpose, and not everyone gets to do that. So it means a lot that you guys think I'm doing a good job. So thank you. Jeff, you are up next.
Okay.
And Jeff is our guest panelist. Sorry, Jeff. I forget to introduce Jeff because I just feel like he needs no introduction. He is the owner of a large Facebook group. He's an Instagram influencer, right? And you have a large following, or Facebook influencer. And he's just like, he's an awesome person. He's like one of my favorite people. I love all the people on this panel equally, but I just think he's just an incredible person who's just so much good. And just is a very wise person. Like when Jeff speaks, I listen all the time. And that's true again about everybody on this panel. But I don't feel like Jeff, I feel like, I don't know the name of the guy, Owl. I feel like Jeff reminds me of Owl from Winnie the Pooh, where like everyone goes to him for advice. And he does all these seminars and does a great job with presentations. So I always look forward to hearing your opinion, Jeff.
Thank you, Jessica. And by the way, don't forget, I also have a major following on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, that's great. We have to connect on there. I don't think we're connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, anyways, oh boy, let me. So on autism organizations in particular, I mean, unlike everybody else here, I'm not really as familiar with. I'm not really as connected as much with Autism Speaks. I go for I'm more of the smaller based autism organizations. But in my neck of the woods, the closest major organization that I've been a part of personally is the ARC. When I was a kid, the ARC was the one that kind of prepared me to go into going to school or preschool or things of that sort. But in terms of, at least in terms of autism organizations, I would look at a particular organization where you live, whether it's in, I understand you live in San Francisco. So I don't know if you're familiar with an particular autism organization out in San Francisco, but for me personally, one organization I can think of that I have been closely associated with, and this was recent, was the Autism Tree Project Foundation based in San Diego. And I actually took part in their neuroscience conference last fall. And this particular organization, they do a lot of screening on the West Coast, not just in San Diego, but around the San Francisco Bay Area. So, and I actually know one of the professors that are connected with ATPF. Her name is Dr. Jean Novak, and she, trains people for preparation into going into the field of working with people on the spectrum. So that's something I would recommend, is get in touch with like someone who's connected with a really great autism-based organization, and and it's not just you, Lisa, but also for other parents as well. I would focus on a particular high-ranking expert in the field of autism in your area, and from there, just draw up a plan to kind of, what to expect for your, for what's in the best interest of your child in a way.
Yeah, and that's great advice. And the ARC is very big, I know, in New Jersey as well. So I know that's, I believe it's a national organization, but they can often have really great programs. And I forget who it was that said the CPAC. Was that you, Jeff, or was that Michelle? Someone mentioned the CPAC, or Kevin, someone mentioned CPAC, and that's another great organization. I often speak for some of the local CPAC organizations. So the CPAC is just from what I understand, it's like the PTA for special needs in any given school district, and it can be really helpful. Most of them have weekly or monthly meetings and have professionals come and talk. Yeah. So that's something to think about.
And don't forget also, the one big autism organization that I know of is the Autism Association of New England, which is based in Watertown, just outside of Boston. That's one organization that's like one of the major private organizations in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's a great one. Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Monica, you're from Canada, so you might have a different perspective on organizations. You might have some different organizations out there. So we'd love to hear what is going on in Canada for autism organizations. And I know you said that you're relatively new to not having autism, but understanding that you have autism. So I don't know if you've plugged in yet to any organizations.
So I've been a part of the autism field for over a decade as an advocate and supporter, and formal ABA therapy and those kinds of things before I was diagnosed. So I'm about 13 years into the field of autism, and about a year into 2 years self-diagnosed, almost a year actually medically diagnosed. So Lisa, you have pushed the button, and Jessica said to be honest, so here we go. Unpopular opinion, you're just gonna have to sit through it. I think that perspective and personality alters experience, but it does not change reality. I think that we don't decide what truth is. Your truth and my truth are both opinions, they're not truth. The truth is this cup is black and this shirt is white, and it doesn't matter what we think about it, that's the facts. I've made notes as usual, you guys know I do that. So based on that, I'm not gonna suggest or bash any organization, because I don't think that gives you the skills that you need to support your kid or any other parent to support their kid. I want you to know how to pick an organization. So find out what your values are, what you want for your kid. I am anti-eugenics. I am anti-cure. I think that a cure is essentially the removal of a valuable and unique neurotype. to remove my autistic nature is to erase me from existence. And I don't support that on any front at all. I think you need to question whether the organization has a strong autistic presence on their board or in upper management. Is it run by neurotypicals or is it run by autistics? Are the people that are running the organization that you choose looking for your child to mask their autistic nature in order to come across as neurotypical or to fit into society better? That's not something that I support. I think that the organization that you choose should be focused on increasing your child's quality of life, giving them whatever skills that they need to increase their quality of life, not to make neurotypical people comfortable. Look for small advocacy organizations, not multi-million-dollar corporations. So I think that the best place for you to start is to kind of just really do some self-searching. Think about who your boy is and what you want for his life, and find out what your family values are around autistic culture and pick something based on that. That's it.
I just love you, Monica. Like, I just think you're awesome. And I think that you communicated your point very effectively without bashing anyone, which is a skill that many neurotypical people don't have. So very good. Well done. And I will say,
because it's good to be autistic.
There you go. Perfect. I am not going to disagree. Like I said, I really wanted to thank everyone for coming on tonight. Jeff did want to say that he had the Global Autism Project is an organization internationally that does a lot of things for people in other countries that don't have the treatment and access to services we have here in the United States and in Canada. So that's also a great resource potentially to get involved with. But yeah, so I learned a lot tonight. I learned a lot from from everyone. I wrote down some notes and I will be looking up a lot of organizations. Lisa, was this helpful in helping you get started and where to look for information?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's really good to look at a bunch of different organizations and get different perspectives, kind of like you spoke to, Monica, to really see like what's going to fit, you know, our approach and what might help us the most. And one might lead to another and lead us down this whole rabbit hole of learning about a whole bunch of different organizations. So thank you guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good organizations and many are very different. And depending upon your child, some may be better for one family and some may be better for another family. It's just finding what works for you. I also saw that you said you're the PTA of your son's treasury now, or you're the treasurer of your son's PTA. Okay, opposite, sorry. Long day. I would love to do a free webinar for your PTA during COVID. So if you guys want, I would be happy to donate an hour of my time and do a free webinar for you guys. Just because I think you're awesome and I want to thank you for showing up here every week. So you have my number, so be in touch with me with that and I'd be happy to do that. Until you guys can meet in person, I'd be happy to sit some. I can't fly out to California, unfortunately, as much as I would love to, but I'd be happy to do something online for you guys virtually. Well, thank you everyone for coming on. I am so grateful for all the panelists. You guys make it a point every week to be here. I know just like me, it's summer, you have a million things going on and I'm so grateful for you. I appreciate you so much. I have a gratitude journal and you guys your names are written down in it almost every day. So thank you so much for being here. If you are a guest and watching this on YouTube, thank you. This has been another episode of Ask an Autistic. Just head over to my website, hopeeducationservices.com, under events. If you would like to register, you can be on here live to get your questions answered. Thank you so much, everyone.